This is One on One. We're pleased to welcome Dr. David Gerlach, Associate Professor and Chair, History Department, and the Director of the Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies at St. Peter's University. Good to see you, Doctor.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Break it down. It's been 75 years, the Holocaust. It still matters because?
I think it's, well, I mean, particularly today, we see the rise of ethno-nationalism, the resurgence of anti-Semitism, xenophobia, even racism in our own country and in Europe. And I think it goes to show these are part of the human condition, really. And these are the ideological bases, if you will, for projects that lead to genocide. And so, you know, while genocide itself is an extreme event, of course, I think there's an important role that a center like this can play in trying to make sure that we're aware of the dynamics of genocide and the kind of being able to address the underlying circumstances that appear again and again in our world to try to, you know, prevent that from happening again.
You know, the term genocide, used a lot. Define it in a way that people can operationalize it in their heads and, more importantly, in their hearts.
Well, if we go back, again, I'm a historian, so if we go back, you know, the originator of the term, Raphael Lemkin, got this passed into the United Nations, the Convention on the Prevention of Genocide back in 1948. And I think the key really is the idea, the intent is kind of the key word, the intent to destroy or wipe out a group of people based on their ethnic, religious backgrounds. And so for me, what that means in practice is looking at how minorities are generally treated in societies where again, there might be other kinds of things like war or economic dislocations and things like that that are going to lead to further problems for these kinds of minorities down the road. And so they become targets, if you will, for these projects.
Describe the work of the center. What do you see the center doing in terms of making a difference?
The mission for the center is sort of threefold. So education's at the forefront. We need to understand and teach our students and community about the history of genocide and about, you know, and that's done by bringing in speakers and developing courses and things like that. I think the second part is research. This is something we'll have to build on. My own research is in that area a bit, but we'd like not only faculty but students to take up research on this topic so that, again, generations from now, this isn't forgotten. And then the third part for us at St. Peter's is about service. And so this goes to the mission of the school.
The Jesuit university that
exactly.
you are. The Jesuit mission, which is not just to talk about religion and to know it, but to live it. Go ahead.
Right. Well, and I think, and to build on that, to serve others, right? And so while, you know, again, it might not be seen as kind of seamless or directly related to genocide, I want to get our students working with refugees and thinking about how they might have an impact on these groups that I was referring to earlier, the minority groups that are targeted and things like that. And so last semester, for example, I ran a service learning course. We partnered with some local organizations, First Friends, New York, New Jersey. There's a small group in Jersey City called Welcome Home. And they work, both groups really, to try to address issues of, well, asylum seekers and refugees, to get them help, to get them integrated in society. And so what we do in the classroom is read and talk about and discuss and learn about the past. But for the students, I think what's most valuable is that they get to interact with some of these people. And again, it's maybe not perfect, you know, but
well, it is. I mean, the point is you're exposing them. But I want to shift gears on something. Teaching about, helping people, students understand more about genocide around the Holocaust. What do you see, Doctor, in terms of the national discourse around these topics and other related topics, dare I say it, in the age of Donald Trump?
Well, like I said, I mean, on the one hand, we might look at the Trump era as, I don't want to say it this way exactly, but I'll say it as a positive. It pulled back the veil a bit to show that these...
On what?
On the fact that a lot of people hold these anti-Semitic views and that, again, the kind of white nationalism, if you will, if we're talking about the United States.
But you're not saying the president is a white nationalist. You're not saying the president is anti-Semitic. You said helped pull the veil back on it.
Well, I think it's part of a much broader. I think the problem with saying it's just Trump is that our attention goes only to that, and I think it's much broader than that. I think again, there are these ideas, okay, these beliefs, this ignorance is widespread.
Of the other?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Has he helped or hurt?
I think both. I mean, you know, part of the job of these centers and so forth is to try to combat exactly these kinds of ideas. Trump himself, though, I think, you know, again, he's not helping because the divisiveness just continues to grow in this country.
What does that have to do with genocide?
Well,
we're not talking about wiping out entire groups of people based on their ethnicity or where they're from.
No.
Is that not apples and oranges?
Well, to a degree, I don't want to be, you know, get into the game of false equivalencies, but I do believe that, again, there are a lot of dynamics that lead to genocide, and part of the earliest part are these ideas, divisive ideas that, you know, again, target the other and look to make scapegoats of minorities. Yes, it's, you know, maybe this doesn't lead to genocide, but it can lead to other kinds of repression and problems. Part of the idea of the centers is to try to build tolerance, you know, and again, you don't see that, you don't think about that when you think about the word genocide, but it's sort of the other goal here.
So switch gears here. The use of language. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez in New York used the term, quote, concentration camps to describe immigrant detention centers.
Right.
Is it, from your academic, scholarly perspective, who understands the Holocaust, genocide, et cetera, inappropriate use of the language concentration camp?
Again, I don't...
Are they concentration camps?
No, technically they're not. They're nothing like what we saw in World War II, for
Does it
example, for the
confuse
Jews.
things as to what was and what is?
No, again, I don't think I would accuse her of a false equivalency here. I think that, again, context matters a lot. She's trying to use that language to draw attention to a policy that is, again, detrimental to a certain group of people. And I think that to use that term, again, it's not in order to downplay what happened to the Jews or the meaning of these concentration camps. In fact, quite the opposite, right? It's to draw our attention to the fact that this is a policy that is hurting people and that needs to be addressed. That's simple.
I mean, putting people in those facilities, which also includes, other part of it is the separation of children from their families.
Exactly.
Part of a larger debate, is it not?
Absolutely.
I have to tell you, the center is open. As we do this program in the fall of 2019, the center is opening. It's the Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies at St. Peter's University. We actually have a very important, significant relationship with that university and other institutions of higher learning. And Dr. David Gerlach, I want to thank you for joining us and adding such important perspective.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay right there. This one-on-one. We'll be right back.